Okay, so I'm live. Hello, everyone. It is Monday, the 9th of October, 2023, and I was not going to do a video, except I am stressing myself out on Instagram. I did a live, and I was rambling a little bit too much, so I figured I may as well do a live video today because what's going on in freaking Israel and in Lebanon and in Armenia and oh my God, so many freaking places. It is exactly what I've been calling now for the last couple of years on my whiteboards, where I've shared this on my Instagram, so it's not like I don't have proof of this stuff, but like it's been like a couple of years since I posted it, so I'm gonna have to go through my old feeds and find out my old whiteboards because I mentioned Iran and Israel and Russia and Ukraine literally from the friggin' start, and I was saying too that it was gonna be the possible connection with the event that would trigger a world war. Would be some kind of an event in Israel. I was thinking possibly because of the people trying to play with prophecies and people's religious and ideological beliefs. I thought that people were gonna exploit that and do like the rebuilding of various temples on sacred ground that would clearly like piss off a lot of people on like in other religious groups, right? And because there are, there's which is why there's like that conflict between Israel and Palestine to begin with, and yeah, it is what it is. So this is a preamble, but I'm going to share with you redacted. They may or may not be controlled opposition, just like Alex Jones, just like Joe Rogan, just like Russell Brand, and countless others on the bigger platforms. But I like what redacted says about what's going on right now. It's a really good summary.
In northern Egypt, not too far from the Israeli border, where Egypt just dropped a bombshell. This is a huge middle finger to the United States and Israel. I'll get to that in a minute. Of course, just north of this location is the Israeli border, and now all-out war against Hamas, all-out war against the Gaza Strip. And if you didn't think a world war was possible before with the NATO war in Ukraine, well, get ready. A few hours ago, the Israeli Defense Ministry just announced an invasion and destruction of Gaza. And I'm quoting him now. There will be no electricity, no food, no fuel. We are fighting human animals.
And so who else is this impacting in those regions, right? So there's that.
And we will act accordingly.
And then dehumanizing people in the process, right? We're fighting human animals.
Many people on social media saying, well, that would be a war crime. Of course, the term war crime is being used a lot in the past few days. We do have reports now showing Hamas using U.S. weapons meant for Ukraine. Imagine how that happens. We send billions of dollars in money and weapons to Ukraine, only for Ukraine to sell them on the black market to Hamas.
Yeah, and so there's even more to it than that, where upwards of 70% of the funding also, by the way, not just the weapons and stuff like that, that were supposed to go to Ukraine did not go there. So where did this stuff go? And people really need to take a look at that. They really, really need to take a look at that. And people are trying to say that this is possibly armaments and vehicles and infrastructure from Afghanistan, that from what was left there. There's a possibility of some things being moved, you know what I mean, and stuff like that from there. But like that would be a lot more difficult to cover up, right? And so I do believe that those assets this is what yeah, I should be. I believe that China and Iran would use, and others, if we get duped into going into a friggin' world war because of what's going on in Israel right now and in Armenia and other places. And sorry, I'm going on all these tangents, but so there's that as well. And then with more funding, I don't know if he gets into this short clip. It's like less than 7 minutes long. But what just happened recently? There's literally been an exchange of Iran prisoners with Americans. I don't even know why people are not talking about this at all, or at least not that I've seen. And there was an exchange of anywhere between $5 billion and $7 billion friggin' dollars, or rather, like funds that were held because of sanctions and stuff like that were imposed on Russia, and on Iran and others, and so like these sanctions or whatever that were in place to that was holding this money, got Iran got the money back, right? So anywhere between 5 and 7 billion, literally just in the last like month or so. And so who funded this, right? So they're going to get into this as well, where there's also correlations with the attacks that happen. By the way, not just Hamas and Hezbollah being responsible for these attacks, but also people that are literally within the Israeli government, and there are a lot of people that even work in the Israeli intelligence departments and stuff like that, saying that this attack is something that was known about for months, just like 9/11, ladies and gentlemen, just like January 6th, just like the friggin' Freedom Convoy, and what was going to subsequently happen with Russia and Ukraine, what it did, and of course these staged and planned attacks again also involved Mossad and other groups, right? And even me just naming these groups in these countries, like I put myself at risk at a very minimum, especially within Canada right now because of all the censorship bills and stuff like that that are being implemented. And now, like even Ken Wheeler, who's like one of the smartest men in the world, was saying just even today on his YouTube videos that I shared this on my Instagram, but just slamming the way that Canada has gone, and even says that he has friends in the US right now that literally fled Canadian dictatorship, and he calls it us dictatorship. And if you're in Canada, you think that we are the best friggin' country in the world and all of this stuff, and that we are amazing and everything is perfect. North Korea thinks the same friggin' thing about their country, by the way. That's the level of censorship.
So continuing to push to stop funding the war in Ukraine and push those countries to peace. And now with what's happening in Israel, we're looking at a whole different situation.
So even further to that, I know I'm going on all these tangents, but so now funding has been questioned to Ukraine, especially now even within Canada, with us bringing in a literal Nazi and having our chief of defense staff, Wayne Eyre, giving him a standing ovation multiple times, and he still has not apologized for that or even discussed this. And this is another guy that I've emailed personally, and discussed, like I have discussed on so many friggin' videos about Europe and about Ukraine specifically too, but Hungary and Poland and other countries that were bordering or neighboring or close to Germany that were complicit in crimes against humanity, and more so actually the crimes were committed and executions and slaughters of women and children and elderly of like so many different like fringe minority groups. This happened outside of even Germany, right? And so like people need to take a look at this. And when I was saying countless friggin' times that Ukraine even now has neo-Nazis, Nazis, whatever you want to talk about it, and they've even and I even gave footage of crimes against humanity from the Azov battalions from Ukraine, saying we need to freaking like not be involved in this, you know what I mean? And I even lost people that I cared about, and or people that were from my regiment during this period as well, going involving themselves in a way, in a capacity that was a noble cause, but it was also more like a militia type response, which again is not only illegal, but like it's highly, it's convoluted. And anyway, I'm going on all these tangents, but even once Joseph Hildebrandt, like a classic example last year that no one even knows about, and he had a wife and kids from Canada, and a veteran, Patricia, and went over to try to help in Ukraine, not knowing the history of it or understanding the geopolitics and the fact that Ukraine, there's been crimes against humanity committed on its citizens now since like 2014, 2015. There was a staged and planned coup that happened in the 2014-15 period, and that Zelensky was only friggin' actually voted in. And by the way, elections are rigged too, because he was a proponent for signing the Minsk Accords and the agreement and having like peace and diplomacy in these regions, and he sold out, right?
I want to track the serial numbers of the weapons that Hamas is using against Israel. And I want to know if they came from Afghanistan or if they came from weapons that we provided to Ukraine.
So we're following that part of the story. We'll have a larger report on that later this week. Meanwhile, how many innocent people are about to be destroyed, caught in between this mess? The answer is a lot. The next few hours will be pivotal for people living in Gaza. The country of Lebanon just fired a dozen rockets at Israeli targets, warning Israel, stay out of Gaza if Israel invades.
So that's warnings, like show of force type stuff. There was no specific targets that were intended for
Gaza. That will bring a response from Hezbollah. All bets are off. World war. Nearby the violence, of course, is their neighbor to the south, Egypt, where I am right now. Egypt, of course.
I've been to Egypt. I've been all over Egypt, down the Nile on a catamaran. I've been to the temples, pyramids, so many different ancient sites, Valley of the Kings, donkey rides, like you name it. Gorgeous area. I would love to go back. But just because of Like even with the Michaels, like going to China and stuff like that, and being arrested, and so many political prisoners all over the world. Like I don't even feel safe traveling anymore. I know this is like a huge stretch, but I just feel like because of my background and stuff like that, like I would be flagged, and because of what I share and stuff like that, like I feel like I'm already freaking flagged anyways, even though I'm trying to share the freaking truth with the reality of the world, because people in government are too ignorant and or pussies to fucking do it.
shares a border with both Gaza and Israel. They're in that incredibly unique position. And over the past few hours, Egypt has sent a stunning message to President Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu saying, no, we will not get involved. The president of Egypt,
Which is
President
good.
Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, has turned down a request by the United States to send forces into Gaza to help attack any targets in Gaza. Biden just announced emergency weapons to Israel, and of course is looking for anyone else that's willing to jump in and help.
This is a mix of like a indigenous tobacco and like a CBD, like a low THC blend cannabis. It's not crack. I've never even tried that.
Attack Gaza.
I've never even seen it in person.
You know, who else wants to jump in? Is there a coalition of the willing?
Every nation in this coalition has chosen to bear the duty.
Although if I wanted to, apparently I just have to ask like the Bidens or like my friggin' current, not mine, but like Justin Trudeau, like the current prime minister. Like I just have to ask them, or Chrystia Freeland, and like they, in New Zealand, they like that just Jacinda Ardern. I actually shared videos of her smoking crack during a like a Zoom meeting that she was doing like online, and she had like these skeleton hands like doing the middle finger on this friggin' t-shirt, unhinged. So these are the people that are making the decisions for the I was gonna say the country, but I was like, impact the world
And share the honor
in this city.
of serving in our common defense.
Instead, Egypt is staying neutral, will not send forces into Gaza. Remember, of course, Egypt fought a bloody war against Israel, and more recently, they've dealt with attacks from Hamas here in northern Egypt. So Egypt says it will remain neutral. Unless we are attacked, we will not enter this conflict. This is a big moment. And in recent years, of course, Egypt has been the mediator of these conflicts, the sort of the go-between between Israel and Hamas. And Egypt is calling on both sides right now to end this violence.
Oh my God, I know. I just don't want to forget what I like, because which is why I'm on Rumble now and not on Instagram. But Trump, I have shared this. He is an actor, ladies and gentlemen, and he's talking too about like, oh, this would never happen if I was the president, blah blah blah. Like this is all by design. And then he's also obviously on the side of Israel. He's not on the side of innocent humans, civilians, because it's all friggin' money, right? Like, and this is the end, not the end game, because we still have the staged and planned alien friggin' invasion. But the way aliens are not friggin' real, like interdimensional friggin' beings from outer space beyond the dome, not a friggin' real thing. And I share that in my videos too. I'm going on all these tangents. But this stuff honestly stresses me out sometimes. I have complex PTSD, and because I've been talking about this and warning people about this and literally giving the freaking play-by-play book with the scripts and what countries would be involved and when they would be for so friggin' long, I'm just like this is exactly what our current leaders want to usher in, right? So it's annoying that, like, again, even with crisis actors, the reason why I'm correlating what's going on with Israel right now with 9/11 is because it's obviously a smaller region than the freaking US. And so the casualties, if you want to look at it comparatively speaking, there's a lot of casualties. So yeah, like very, very significant, like in regards to the percentage of the population. And but there are also, just like with 9/11 and like all these things, like I've already mentioned, there are crisis actors involved. And I've shared videos too on my social media, but of men that are pretending to be showing videos of like of Hamas or other groups like attacking or targeting individuals, and it's all staged, right? Like I even see like guys that like the camera pans, and then the guys see that it's panned, and then they start running, and then they start their scenes, or like the thumbs up, and they're like looking, and the camera's very specifically like panning just like very specifically in certain locations. And this is all like when you have a trained eye to see this stuff, it's very obvious. And but I just and this is why I just don't understand why people still get repeatedly duped when we've seen like the same patterns, the same actors. There's people like me that expose the same repeat actors if we see them more and more, which is why I went to the Freedom Convoy to take, to see it for myself, to try to call out a lot of these like these scenarios and scripts that people wanted to play or were likely going to play out. And I saw a few like the drunken disorderly, like with props and people pretending to be drunk and stuff like that in the streets. Like I saw that myself and called that out, and then I was calling out like things that like I'm like the war monument is going to be obviously like impacted, because like that is a very symbolic representation of like it's going to elicit a lot of emotional responses in various people, and of course they use that. And I was talking about like using like homeless people because like they always use that as well, and oftentimes they actually pay them to actually be part of the actors group or whatever you want to call it, because and it's exploiting people that are vulnerable, and it really fucking pisses me off too. And it's because they're oh. Yeah. So I have volunteered with charities my whole life. And but even with the Ottawa Mission, it's been several years where like I've done the kitchen duties and stuff like that, you know, downtown, and I've also been a facilitator multiple times, you know, with Discovery University. And so that there's a lot of one-on-one or like with a group, like a small group of people that are homeless trying to get back on their feet, and they've struggled with a lot of adversity and trauma in their friggin' lives, and not having proper support networks in place. And yeah, there's so many different stories. And I don't even know where I was going with this stuff. Well, yeah, and so to exploit these people and even people that I know personally, you know what I mean? I just get so freaking annoying. It's so disgusting to me. And it's by people that are low level, right? So you have people, unfortunately, now that are millionaires and billionaires that are actually low level slime balls, disgusting human beings that actually have not done anything real for humanity their entire lives. They're banking off the wealth they inherited, like the resources they inherited. They've never wanted for nothing, you know what I mean? And they're not people that like, they're leading wars, leading us into wars, yet they're not even people that can do a push-up. They're not even people that have actually risked their own lives on a battlefield, going into a burning building to like save women and children. You know what I mean? They've never like been like on the ground like a street cop. You know what I mean? They've never experienced any of this shit to be a real freaking hero, or they've got the actors that play the heroes on TV that it's just really pisses me off. And they've never been threatened. They've never been exposed to like the violence and the aggression and the all of this stuff that they've actually, you know, by design like pushed on our friggin' societies. And so yeah, they've created this Universe 25, and they're too cowardly and weak to be honest, like to survive their own model that they've created for us. And it's annoying, right? Because like it works.
Immediately. That's the message just about an hour ago from the Egyptian government. This is a bold move by Egypt. You're giving basically the middle finger to the United States, which is a country that has kept Egypt under its thumb for many years. We do know that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, just spoke with his counterparts here in Egypt. I can only imagine what it must be like to be a fly on that wall, listening for the United States
I'll back it up.
between Israel and Hamas. And Egypt is calling on both sides right now to end this violence immediately. That's the message just about an hour ago from the Egyptian government. This is a bold move by Egypt. You're giving basically the middle finger to the United States, which is a country that has kept Egypt under its thumb for many years. We do know that Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, just spoke with his counterparts here in Egypt. I can only imagine.
I don't think that that's an FU to the United States for Egypt to actually do the right thing and make the right decision, right? They have seen like what's gone on both sides, by the way, because Palestine as well has also had a lot of targeted attacks that people don't hear about or know about over many years, and we're even targeting civilians and stuff like that. And so like this is again it's a complex situation, right, where there's innocent civilians that are being impacted on all sides, unfortunately. And so it's not a slap in someone's face for someone to do the correct decision, right? So like this is why like the US should not be upset about the fact that they don't want to listen to them on this, right? Like let them do their own thing. They are a lot more experienced and they have a lot more intel on the freaking ground about what's going on. So clearly they're probably going to make the better decision, being more intimate to like the situation than the US, especially with the leadership that they have involved right now in the decision-making processes. It's like just like Canada, like it's just actors with like low IQ. Reality.
Imagine what it must be like to be a fly on that wall, listening for the United States asking Egypt, you know, look, you're the neighbor right there to the south, right near the Gaza Strip. Sure you don't want to send any troops? Sure you don't want to send anything? Egypt saying, no, we're not going to do that. I mean, the U.S. currently has export controls against Egypt, not sanctions, but export controls. And that limits, of course, who can do business with Egypt. And because of U.S. sanctions in Africa, it severely hurts Egyptian trade and its economy. Egyptian economy is, of course, not very strong. Of course, the
They've even been, yeah.
Egyptian pound has taken an absolute beating. It is, of course, the leading currency here in Egypt, but really the U.S. dollar is second to the Egyptian pound. And in some towns in Egypt, the U.S. dollar is the primary means of doing business. Talk to Egyptian businesses and they'll all tell you U.S. dollars, yeah, we accept U.S. dollars for goods and services.
Yeah.
A source at a top Egyptian bank told me today that almost all of the large transactions are carried out in US dollars.
Even when I was in Egypt, it was the same thing. Yeah.
And the Egyptian pound,
And I'm Canadian, so I would even exchange my Canadian to American a lot, like when I travel, because a lot of places that I've gone to, ironically, it's US dollars. Even Afghanistan with the markets.
is losing value. It has been for the past few years. So Egypt is under the thumb of the United States monetarily. And for Egypt to say, hey, sorry, we're not doing your bidding, is a bold move. Also of note, Egyptian buildings in Cairo have raised the Palestinian flag, just like they've done in Iraq, Syria, Iran, Kuwait, and Libya. Palestinian flags hitting skyscrapers at nighttime. Also, I found this to be a stunning admission today, just actually a few minutes ago, from Egypt. Egypt's top intelligence officials saying that Israel totally dropped the ball here. They ignored huge warning signs that something big was coming from Hamas in Gaza.
So Egypt, I don't know if you caught that, said that Israel dropped the ball because there were warning signs and stuff like that for months. No shit, Sherlock. Does that remind you of anything? January 6th, 9/11, Freedom Convoy, Ukraine, Russia, like so many different friggin' things.
And they did nothing to stop it. In other words, Egypt says Israel knew this was coming. They warned Israel. They had multiple conversations about it. They admitted this. Israel has arguably the most sophisticated intelligence service in the world, and yet they purposefully didn't do
Well, I mean, they haven't hired me yet.
anything to stop it. Egypt says they knew about it. So if that's true, why would they do that? Why would Israel ignore a potential attack?
It's
We'll
intentional.
let you make up your own minds on that. So as the sun sets here on this very hot day here in Egypt, worries that this is about to get a whole lot worse. We'll be watching it very closely.
We
We'll
hope
see you
not.
real soon. Thank you so much.
So that was just very interesting, and like a nice summary of what's going on right now. And it's a little stressful. So he mentioned a few things. I don't know. I'll go back to stream, see if there's any questions. No. Okay. Anything else I want to talk about with what's going on? He covered Lebanon, Egypt. I don't know if he had covered Armenia, but he covered Israel, obviously. No, I will leave it at that. And oh my God, the next few hours, it's going to be stressful. I really, really hope that people don't get duped into committing or escalating this into exactly what certain people want this to escalate into. Like this has been a culmination of events, and of course, exploding religious celebrations, like even in Canada with Thanksgiving, like I've mentioned, and with Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah just passing, but even October in general being a very religious month for various different groups. And so of course things being executed literally around this time, and it yeah, doesn't surprise me at all, unfortunately. And which is why I say, why is it important that we discuss things like certain organizations being fake and or lying to us on a large scale internationally, like even about friggin' flat simulation Earth? And I really don't care if people think I'm crazy for that or not. Like the people that you're getting your information from, they're incorrect. They don't even know how to even explain their own models. And even if I share like that people that are throughout history that are famous for their theories, how there have been like other famous people that refuted and or debunked their theories, or at least multiple major ones, and these people were censored throughout history. Again, this is a common theme, right? And so like those who finance the mainstream media and the education systems and stuff like that, these are the people that are writing scripts essentially, and this is all for profit for like already billionaires that are already really, really good at what they're doing. And it's, I don't know. Is it unstoppable? Probably. I don't know. So what do you do? Plan for power outages, internet disruptions, connectivity issues, resource issues, shortages of so many different resources that we need, like food, water, oil. I don't know. I'm just looking at my other whiteboard. Because again, this is all stuff that I've called this whiteboard that I'm looking at right now. This was like December of last year that I wrote it, and I haven't even updated it yet because I haven't even needed to. And I even put a question mark, September 2023. Look, I can't make this shit up. And so many other points I have in here too, which triggered the events for what went on in the last 2 weeks. But EMPs, Yeah, no, I think that's it for now. Oh yeah, and like more, even on my whiteboard, I like first the top on the list was like increase in natural and man-made disasters in various different ways, like with the flooding, with the mud floods, with earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, fires, Nord Stream 2 being blown up, other dams and bridges, and now the attacks. Oh yes, and also people are talking about people that have come in like across the borders internationally, but also through the U.S. as well, and how there are people that are in sleeper cell mode essentially, and that there's possibly going to be like targeted controlled attacks in the U.S. and Canada and Australia and New Zealand, with these other places as well, France and UK, at various different times, but like within like the next year or two. And yeah, that's something to look into as well. And I'm not trying to like make people live in fear at all, not remotely. I'm just like letting people know what's out there and what's being discussed, because our mainstream media, they're too cowardly and or misinformed to discuss this, and they're talking off scripts. And our politicians, they don't know what they're talking about, or they're too afraid to actually let their opinions be known on social media, because they're afraid of the backlash. But if you're a leader, a true leader, then you should not be afraid of your convictions and what you speak, and what your side is, and you should be open to the scrutiny that comes along with it as well, and the questions that are asked, and things like that as well. So like you need to be open to being wrong, open to it, but also like have like people within your organization that are able to like bounce things off of. Like for example, with Pierre Poilievre and stuff like that, like with his marketing team. I don't know who his marketing team is for social media, but I feel like they're failing him, unfortunately. And so if he had better like, I don't know, yeah, every party is the same, right? If they had like better people that were assisting them with their social media platforms. I'm not saying I'm perfect at all with my social media. Like I freaking troll people right back who troll me. I don't troll, but I respond back to people who troll me sometimes, which you shouldn't do that, but like it is what it is. And I'm not very PC, politically correct on social media either, if you haven't really freaking noticed. But I'm also not a politician yet, and or someone that's working, in cabinet, and so like these are positions. But even though I say things that are like off the cuff and stuff like that, like on social media, like again, I'm leaps and bounds ahead. I mean, no sense, leaps and bounds ahead of the current people that are working within government. So even though they're PC on social media, it's because they're not being genuine, right? They're not showing themselves on their social media, if that makes any sense. So a lot of the things that they do or say that we're not getting access to, we don't know. And let me just look at my history to see if there's anything else, because it's been a relatively short video, and maybe that's a good thing. Oh, I could talk to you about COVID and more information coming out about adverse events, and how companies do this like all along, and heads of organizations, including cabinet, knew all along, and they put a campaign together to fund spreading misinformation that profited them and caused more adverse side effects on the citizens. No. Okay. Well, nothing else to say other than that. I hope that everyone has a wonderful day.